thought I would do a little more on crowd control and how to choose a companion as it relates to crowd control. This is my healer sorcerer, the corruption sorcerer, the mirror of the seer sage, Jedi consular sage. Um, I just did a little video on my Sith assassin, my tank assassin, and did a little bit about how to use CC and how not to break it. And it's quite a different story on the sorcerer. Very different. It's a little, perhaps a little unintuitive. That they are both Sith Inquisitors, the sorcerer and the assassin, but they play entirely differently. The Sith Sorcerer being a ranged class, I only use the lightsaber on rare occasion to finish off an enemy that gets close to me. The lightsaber attack is very, very weak on the Sith Sorcerer, but it's still fun to use just to finish off an enemy if he gets close to me once in a while. Quite the opposite for the Sith Assassin, which uses a pretty equal balance of force powers and saber use. Uses the saber staff. Now, what I'm doing here, one very nice addition within the last year to the Old Republic is that now companions can be set to any role you want. They can heal you, they can be a damage dealer, DPS, or they can be a tank. What I like to do is I enjoy using CC, crowd control abilities. I like to use my companion as a tank when I'm going to use crowd control because tanks have a unique ability among companion stances of not breaking crowd control. Now, this companion, her name's Ashara Zavros. You get her on the planet Taris in the Sith Inquisitor story. She has very high DPS, even though they sort of normalized all of the companion abilities when they changed companions to be able to do any role at all. She does tend to have slightly higher DPS, some say significantly higher DPS, because she's a dual wield. She has two sabers. And the same goes for any other companion that would use two weapons. For instance, for the sorcerer, there's Andronicus Revel. He's a dual wield pistol companion. He usually just be DPS in the same way that Shara was only DPS before, and he is said to have exceptionally high DPS now. But that seems to be maybe just an artifact left over from the fact that they are dual wield. So I do like to use a DPS companion, but when I'm using CC, which I kind of often do in these heroic missions, it really makes sense to me to use a tank because the tank will not break my CC, my Mez. It's called Whirlwind on the Sorcerer. Same name on the Assassin, however, the Sorcerer gets a 1 minute Mez out of it. The Assassin gets an 8-second Mez out of it. So you'll see me here, I still didn't do this, I want to do a video on interrupts. I like to interrupt one ability on these guys mentioned in the other video. These golden wheats have a, oh, there it is, level 70. I hit the level cap with a new expansion. I'll check out my crates later and assign a new utility point later. But I'm big on interrupts as well as I am big on CC. I like things that go beyond simple DPS, simple damage, simple fight, kill to survive rather than survive to kill, and I do play classes like that. I have a couple DPS classes. They're very fun, but I have more fun when I do tanking or healing. You'll notice maybe that my attacks seem a bit repetitious, but that's because this guy is a healer. So after about level 12, at least under the system that I leveled in, I really got no more attacks. I just got more heals, and the skill tree only enhanced my healing abilities. So I have very basic attacks, and my rotation for attacks, if you can call it a rotation, is basically to conserve force, which is perhaps the only problem with the Sorcerer and the Jedi Sage. Particularly the healers, they have very force-hungry abilities, and they do have a pretty good way to regenerate force, and I will do an updated video. I did one, probably over a year ago on the Sorcerer and Sage Healer. There's a way to regenerate force, and you have to do that very religiously, or you'll dig yourself in a hole. The Sorcerer and the Sage have a very large force pool. However, the regeneration the regeneration rate is really painfully slow. And you can find yourself dug in a hole if you don't pay attention to your force usage, manage your force, and pay attention to how you're going to regenerate your force. So I will, at times, you'll see there's probably going to be a time ahead. I know there's a champion coming up where I may even overheal a bit, meaning that I heal more than I need to. But as I'll explain in a video on how to do an ice rotation for a sage or sorcerer healer, I do that because it's the only way that I can actually generate a resource that allows me to regain my force pool, which is my main resource. I don't think it's a great design, but it works. Ultimately it works. Sadly, it is based on random number generation. It is based upon the critical hits of a particular heal, so it is random, and it is entirely possible, and does happen, that I don't get any critical hits, even though I have my critical chance up to a level that is just about at the point of diminishing returns, which is about 40% crit rate in this game. But it does work. Hopefully they don't make this even more painful. The sorcerer just took a massive nerf, a massive reduction in damage and healing. It's okay for me. I got out of endgame playing a few years ago. I've been playing games since Pong came out, giving away my age. Pong was a novelty and an absolute innovation. I was around for that. So I kind of got out of the need to prove myself every time I go out and play a game. More interested in casual fun now, but I still have it in me that I want to have my stats right. I do want to know what the proper rotation of skills is. I want to get the most out of the class I play. I enjoy that. So now I need 2 more elites here before I can fight the champion. You won't be able to progress the quest here until you meet the requirements. So this blue bubble you see around me, and I put it around my companion, is a static barrier. It's called Force Armor on the Jedi Sage, and is a very good tool. I refresh it often. You'll notice that I keep doing that. And I have a new buff. That came rather recently, I think. I never had this before. High up in the skill tree, the discipline tree, and it actually reflects some damage back, direct damage, not damage over time. It directs it back at the attacker, so it's pretty cool. And it's very important if you're going to play a sage or a sorcerer to maintain these bubbles on yourself and on your companion. Reduces a lot of damage. It's worth the force cost to do this. So there's our sage. Now sometimes you're going to see that it doesn't look like I'm doing a whole lot. The lightning attacks are pretty obvious, but I do have 2 damage over time attacks, dot attacks. And the animations for dot attacks are generally not very noticeable, not very flamboyant. There is a death field attack that the madness sorcerer gets that's a lot more noticeable actually. But the dot attacks I have are very unnoticeable. And let's see, getting down there, health. And you'll see I occasionally keep healing my companion when even if she only loses a little bit of health, there's rejuvenate, not rejuvenate, I forget the name on this. Anyway, sometimes I think in sage terms, some in sorcerer terms. It's a small heal over time, but it has 2 added benefits. One, it will increase the armor rating of the target. Let me pick my utility here. This will allow me to use my innervate heal on the move, so I don't have to worry about standing still when I cast it, which can be extremely useful. The sorcerer is a caster and usually must stand still during attacks and heals. But this one little heal I do, it increases the armor rate on the target, whoever you heal, and it also gives a benefit to every other heal that you have in your batch of skills there. So, although it's a small heal, It's integral to the rotation of the Sith sorcerer. So anyway, I hope maybe you got something out of this, and just keep in mind, if you want to use a CC ability, crowd control ability, and you're sending your companion into attack, it's best to have them on tank stance so they will not break your crowd control. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching.